Co-op horror has always been about survival, but how we survive has changed a lot. It used to be simple: grab a gun, stick with your team, and fight your way out. Then came the games where your own friends are the threat, and suddenly you weren't just surviving horror, you were playing as it. Now, you're scavenging items, piecing together objectives, and hoping your teammate doesn't trigger something they can't handle.
Treasure's right there. Treasure's right there.
So how did we end up here? How did co-op horror splinter into so many forms, and why do they all kind of work? Before horror games tried to mess with your head, they mostly just threw enemies at you until you either won or failed. The co-op horror formula back then wasn't about fear, it was about power. Left 4 Dead basically wrote the manual. 4 players, a ton of guns, waves of infected, and an AI director that made sure things never felt too easy, or too fair. It wasn't horror in the traditional sense. It was horror in a way that a haunted house at a theme park is horror, but it was fun. The same goes for games like Killing Floor and even Call of Duty Zombies. They had horror aesthetics, blood, fog, creepy ambient music, but the gameplay was just hold the line survival. These games were never trying to make you feel vulnerable. They were just trying to see how long you could hold your ground before everything went to hell. So this early era leaned into what worked: tight gameplay, flashy set pieces, and just enough blood to justify calling it horror. It laid the groundwork, but no one was actually scared playing these games, unless you count the fear of a teammate stealing your medkit mid-horde.
These zombies are bad as fuck. I might let them kill me.
Around the mid-2010s, co-op horror took a detour, and that detour's name is Dead by Daylight. It flipped the whole idea of co-op horror on its head. Instead of you and your friends fighting off AI enemies together, now one of you was the enemy. Friday the 13th did it too. One person plays Jason, and the rest of the group pretends like hiding under a bed is a valid long-term strategy. These games were less about immersion and more about outsmarting another human being who wants you dead. And to be fair, they were tense. Getting chased across the map while your useless teammate fumbles a generator is a special kind of stress. But this wasn't horror in the traditional sense. It was more like a multiplayer puzzle wrapped in a slasher movie fan service. You weren't scared of the game, you were scared of the guy behind the keyboard, which, yeah, is kind of horrifying if you've ever played solo queue. These games also brought something new to the table: unpredictability. Real players don't follow AI rules. They camp, they tunnel, and they do weird meta builds just to spite you. It added a layer of tension that early co-op games didn't have. But here's the thing. They were still more competitive than cooperative. Your teammates weren't people you strategized with, they were just obstacles in your race to escape. And God forbid they actually helped you. And the funniest part? Half the tension in these games didn't even come from the killer, it came from your teammates. Someone always thinks they're the main character. They'll flashbang the killer, teabag in the exit gate, get hooked trying to show off, and then it's your problem. It's survival horror, but the horror is that you solo queued. Asymmetrical horror carved out its own lane. It was fun, but it wasn't about atmosphere, it wasn't about dread. It was about juking some guy with 3,000 hours on Leatherface. And that's fine, but it also meant co-op horror was still missing something: the feeling of actually being in danger. Then Phasmophobia showed up out of nowhere and completely changed the co-op horror game formula. This wasn't about action, or PvP, or racking up kills. This was about staying in a pitch black room where you're basically helpless. No guns, no perks, just you, a flashlight, and a bunch of devices to help you gather evidence along the way. But it worked, because it leaned into the one thing co-op horror had been missing: actual tension. Phasmophobia didn't need to shove jump scares in your face. It let the silence do the heavy lifting. And for once, your friends weren't power tripping. They were panicking, arguing over EMF readings, dropping gear in the wrong room, and slamming doors in each other's faces just in case. Everyone acted like they knew what they were doing until the lights flickered, then suddenly, nobody wanted to go first. It wasn't just scary, it was funny, in a very real way. And that unlocked a whole new blueprint. Indie devs saw the formula and ran with it, giving us plenty of games that were seemingly different, but mostly the same. And then came Lethal Company, which took everything these games were doing and added capitalism. You're not just surviving, you're scavenging trash to meet your employer's profit quota, while giant monsters stalk you in abandoned locations. These games stopped being about scoreboards and started being about fear. Just trying to make it out without turning on each other. Co-op horror went from "how many kills did we get?" to who's still alive. And honestly, that shift is what made it interesting again. These modern co-op games kind of flipped the whole idea of being good at the game on its head. In Phasmo or Lethal Company, failure is half of the fun. The best moments come from doing everything wrong. Splitting up, misreading the signs, getting wiped because someone tried to solo loot for scrap. It's not about winning, it's about how funny the disaster looks when it all falls apart. So we have the blueprint now. Action-heavy survival, asymmetrical PvP, and full-blown chaos disguised as ghost hunting. Now there's R.E.P.O. Not a new category, but a step forward. It borrows the chaos, keeps the fear, and actually gives you the tools to push back. It's everything that came before, just tightened up. If you somehow haven't heard about R.E.P.O, I have a whole video breaking it down, explaining how it's not only the new big horror game on the block, but also a unique twist on the genre. Co-op horror has came a long way, and the genre is finally figuring out how to be fun and terrifying at the same time. If you made it this far, seriously, thank you for watching. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is insane. I can't thank you guys enough. If you liked the video, how about dropping a like and maybe subscribe if you're into these kind of videos. I got plenty more on the way. Either way, I'll see you guys in the next one. It has been your boy Katana. Peace.